Good morning, little children. Well, I hope you've had a lovely weekend and have enjoyed the super sunshine. Today's maths, I'm not going to lie to you, today's maths is possibly the trickiest rule that we've done. So we're saving the hardest ones till you're almost P7. Okay, we'll look at it that way. So the rule is I before E. And the learning outcome, to identify, read and spell words with an I before E letter pattern. The success criteria, find and read words with the I before E letter pattern. Explain the rule for the I before E letter pattern and correctly spell words with I before E letter pattern. So let's do our speed spell. Let's do this nice and quickly. There are some reasonably tricky words and some very tricky words this week. Okay, number 1, arduous. The whole task was very arduous. Arduous. Number 2, tenuous. There was a tenuous link between the criminal and the crime. Tenuous. Number 3, tortuous. We had a tortuous wait in the baking sun. Tortuous. Number 4, contemptuous. The man gave a contemptuous look. Contemptuous. Number 5, superfluous. The bread was superfluous to requirements. Superfluous. And number 6, tempestuous. There was a tempestuous storm around the haunted house. I wonder if anybody has used the word. Tempestuous is a good word to describe weather. That's all I need to say there. Okay, I before E except after C, the spelling rule for this week. This rule really just applies when the vowels make an E sound. Okay? So when the sound is not E, EI is used. So, I before E. Now, let's just pick out some words in the first line, okay? If we look down, I'm going to pick out vein and rain near the bottom. At points 6 and 7. Vein and rain. So vein carries your blood, and rain is what you hold on to if you're riding a horse. That's what those two words are. Not rain from the sky, not what the Queen does. It's a rain for a horse. That's how you spell it. And vein is to do with your blood. Okay? Every other word in that list has an E sound. Brief, grief, chief, field, wield. Now, I've stopped at wield because deceit, conceited, and sealing have got C's in them. So if you notice that brief, grief, chief, field, and wield have the I first. So it's I before E. And the second part of that rule is except after C. So the full rule is not just I before E, it's I before E except after C. So deceit, conceited, and sealing have got C's first. So it's C-E-I, C-E-I, C-E-I. And then vein and rain are different. They're EI because they're not an E sound. Okay? So that is how you remember how to spell these words. Let me just quickly go through the words. So brief, short, grief, deep sadness, chief, the boss, field, full of grass. Wield is a word that you might not know. So if you might talk about somebody wielding a weapon, that means that they're carrying it and using it. So if somebody's wielding a sword, they're maybe holding it above their heads and, I don't know, doing some kind of martial art trick with it. I don't know. I don't know what people do with swords. I don't know. Deceit means to... deceit is about hiding the truth. It's lying, hiding the truth. It might not be a direct lie, but it's in some way concealing what is true. Then vain and vain, I've told you. Conceited, if somebody is conceited, they think very highly of themselves. And obviously ceiling is above your head. Okay, so let's look at orange. I before E, except after C. So, peace, priest, shield, belief, relief, and thief. They are all I before E, and they make an E sound. Then except after C, we've got receive and receipt. They're except after C, because there's a C in receive and receipt. They've got the same, those two words are related. And then we've got two that don't have the E sound, which are there, meaning belonging to them, and friend. Now, friend, I'm going to say, is the most difficult word in that list. And friend is a word that many, many people spell wrongly. So, that is a word that you're going to have to learn. That's the bottom line. You're just going to have to put it in your mind. In a sense, even although it doesn't have an E sound, it does fit in the I before E except after C. And technically there doesn't, because although it doesn't have an E sound, it's an E before I and there's no C. So somehow you're going to have to work these out. There, every spelling of the word there starts THE. So that should help you with there. And we'll just quickly run through. Peace means a part of. And if you remember, it starts with the word pie. So you can have a piece of pie. Then priest is a religious leader. Shield is a protection. Belief is something that you believe. Relief is when something difficult disappears. Thief is somebody who steals. And then receive is when you get something. And receipt is the little piece of paper that you get in the shop after you've given them your money. It's a proof of transaction. Okay. Now, the red ones are more difficult because we have 3 at the bottom. We will come to these at the end, the 3 at the bottom. So, our I before E with the E sounds are freeze, believe, achieve, relieve, retrieve. Those words. Perceive has got the C in it. So I before E except after C, which is why it is E and then I. The next word is forfeit, which is not an E sound. And we'll come back to those ones in a minute. So let me just go through these words. Freeze is a giant picture on a wall. It doesn't have anything to do with the cold or keeping still. It is a giant picture on the wall. Believe, obviously. Achieve is when you reach a goal. Relieve, again, it relates to relief. Retrieve is when you bring something back. And perceive is when you think you know something. You kind of work it out in your mind. A forfeit is when you miss out on something or you have to do something bad. So let me give you an example. If you for example, didn't get everything right in your dictation, maybe a forfeit would be that you had to stand on one foot for a minute. I don't know. That was how you would use the word. Okay, so your bottom three, weird, C's, and protein, they are kind of the opposite of the rule. So the EXC stands for exception. So these three words are an exception to the rule. So the rule usually stands except in the case of these three. And there are others, but they're not in our spelling list today, so we're not going to worry about them. So weird is E-I, C's E-I, and protein E-I. So you can think, well, that's weird. Actually, I would try and make up a sentence. That's weird. Somebody tried to seize the protein. And then you remember that these three are the opposite from all the others. They are exceptions to the rule. Okay? So I get that is tricky. And I mean, the words, there's no particularly long words. They're not like last week's where almost every word was extremely long. But these could be in our commonly misspelt words. These could all come in tricky words. And the orange word thief is a word that lots of people actually find quite tricky to say. Because we've got into the habit of pronouncing a TH sound like an F sound, which is actually a London thing. It's not a British thing. It's not a Scottish thing. It's very much a London thing that, because of programs like EastEnders, has spread across the country. So thief, okay? That might be one to, if we were in class together, I would be getting us to practice saying it. Right, let's look finally at our commonly misspelt words. And these are tricky. So the first one is permanent. Believe it or not, I don't know if you know of anybody who's ever had a perm. When I was young, perms were all the rage. Everybody was getting them. But perms is short for the word permanent. Because a perm is supposed to last a long time. It's never going to be permanent because your hair's always growing. But permanent means forever. And if you look, it begins with an E vowel, it ends in an E vowel, and it's got an A in the middle. It's got the word man in the middle, if that helps you. Man ent. Okay, the next word is persevere, which means to keep going even when it's hard. And we should right now persevere with our spelling. Keep going even though it's hard. It's only got E's in it. And all of them are pronounced except for the last one. And you could call that a magic E at the end, making that V-E, making that E there into going from an S sound to an E sound. Persevere. So you could think of that final E as a magic E. The next one is personally. So it comes from person, personal, personally. Okay, so break it down. Person, you know how to spell person. Then personal, you're just adding A-L. And then personally, you're just adding L-Y. So it's not personally. It's not person, L-Y. It's personally. Okay, remember those 3 steps. Person, personal, personally. Persuade. In all honesty, the U in persuade is acting like a W. But you must remember it's a U. Don't mix it up. That's easy. It's the suede part that is tricky. It's a magic E to make that A sound instead of a, persuade, persuade. And the U is acting very much like a W, but it is a U. So there are 4 vowels in persuade. E's at the beginning and the end, and then UA in the middle. And finally, picture. This one, although it's a tricky word and it's commonly misspelt, it's a word that you'll have seen a lot, you'll have used a lot, so it's probably easier than the others just because you know it better. Picture, it's got that ch sound made from the TU. Picture. Okay, PICTURE. And I hope you have a good spelling week.